Hello, everyone, and welcome to What the Heal podcast. My name is Maria Sellars, and I will be your host along this journey. I am joined today by Jessica York. So thank you so much, Jessica, for being here and joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited to have you on. For those of you who don't know, Jessica York is the definition of a Renaissance woman. As the owner of Breathe Bodywork and Beautification in Ferndale, Michigan, she's cultivated an atmosphere devoted to healing and self-care, as well as physical health and recovery. This focus on holistics led her to create her podcast, When Survival Looks Like Success, which is focused on entrepreneurship, mental health, and storytelling from Metro Detroit-based business owners. This year, she formed Coterie Detroit as an outreach extension of the networking she has been cultivating, which is an all-inclusive entrepreneurial group to deliver excellent business coaching that supports a healthy mentality surrounding work. She has been featured in several magazines, podcast, and local events, as well as placing Best of Detroit 2 years in a row. Yes, get it, Queen. I'm so happy for you and for all of your success. It's been amazing to watch your journey unfold. So tell us a little more. What the heal is going on in your world?
Oh, what the heal is right. I I think I say that to myself like on a daily basis now since you launched your podcast. Like, what the heal?
Oh, I love
um,
that.
so I came back from Myrtle Beach. We went away for a weekend. I'd never been to South Carolina, and I come back and I'm left with this horrible vertigo. Horrible. Now, I've had vertigo in my life, but never vertigo like this. And when you're in a job where, even though, yeah, I'm cross licensed for cosmetology too, like still like 70% of my business is massage. And when you're in a job where you are leaning over, you're standing, you're shifting your body weight, and then suddenly you can't do any of that because it triggers horrible vertigo and you don't want to fall on top of the person you're massaging, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, that might not be the most relaxing thing, falling on top of somebody. Like, oh, this is a new
No,
technique.
no. So I am literally trying to what the heal at home and trying to figure out what's causing it because they kind of can't figure out exactly what's causing it. I know the plane ride triggered it, but they don't know what's causing it, and so they don't know how to fix it. And so that's been a little tricky.
Oh, yes, that can be when it's like, where is this coming from? Because we want to get to the
Yeah.
root of it.
And I think like people in our industry, we are focused on our health. Like our health has to be really good for us to be able to perform at our best. And if you're going to get a massage or get a facial or anything like that, you want your practitioner to be at their best. You don't want to be getting like subpar work. And so I have a certain quality I like to adhere to, and not being able to execute that, it's like,
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I say the same thing. I'm like, if you can't show up, then don't show up, you
then don't
know?
show up. Yeah.
Yes, because it's better to fully be
Yeah.
able to be there. And
Hmm.
if all you're worried about is, not falling over on the person in this instance, like it's probably not gonna
I
create.
feel like Stevie Wonder trying to massage right now. Like it's like super wide stance, arms out in front of me, and I'm looking up, just kind of doing this. I look like Stevie Wonder. Like, I'm not gonna lie. This is not a knock to Stevie Wonder because I love Stevie Wonder. I just literally look like Stevie Wonder while I'm massaging right now.
Yes, you're trying to get in there. Oh my gosh, that's such a good visual.
It's very true. Very, very true.
Yes. And so how many times have you experienced this with the vertigo?
This is the only time I've ever experienced vertigo like this. I've never had it. This is kind of like the floor is dropping.
Mm.
It's very like on a vertical axis. It's like your head's being pushed down a lot. Whereas other vertigo I've had in my life, like when I was younger from like fevers or ear infections or stuff like that, that was all very like spinning, like the room was spinning and you're kind of wobbly, like very like drunk.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is totally different. Like I can sit down and it's fine.
Oh, that's yeah,
Like
but you
it's
leaning
it's
over,
weird.
you adjust that axis and it's like, oh, there goes everything.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I can get to the root of it because there is a lot going on. Like you said in the intro, like I do a lot, and I want to be able to do a lot. I have great things coming up, great events coming up, things I'm, on the board of or volunteering for. And I want to be able to execute those things to the best of my abilities. And when you have like a mystery health problem, it can be really frustrating. You're kind of just like tracking down the breadcrumbs, so to speak.
Yes, but it's great
Mhm.
that you're going, no, I'm going to take a pause and take a step back so that way I can nurture my body during this time. You know,
Mhm.
with all the different ways that you show up, it's so important that you
Mhm.
can show up.
And I mean, I do think that anytime I have, like, I feel like in my life, my medical history has been really weird. Like, it's never like a one shot, oh, this is exactly what it is. It's no, here's 40 tests to figure out what it is. And still, we might not know. And so I feel like that's given me really great experience to pass on to other people that are also going through some of those like mystery ailments or mystery diagnoses because really the way you are going to figure out what's happening in your body is sometimes from another person and not just from going to see like a general practitioner or internist. Like they might not know, but you might talk to that random person on the street or on Facebook that's like, you know what, I had this one time and go get checked for this. And that's so helpful.
It really is. And that's the beauty of
Hmm.
sharing your experiences and opening yourself up in that way because you never know who's going to go, that's the exact message
Yes.
that I was looking for. That's what I've been needing to hear. So
Yeah.
it's really
And it's like,
powerful.
and it's lonely, like when you're going through stuff like this, especially anything that's like kind of autoimmune or mysterious, and definitely like those invisible illnesses, which I've struggled with my whole life. I'm like, no, I don't want another one to add into the mix.
Yeah.
But it's like been helpful because I have been able to impart my wisdom with things and what has worked or not worked with other people and clients. And so sometimes I do think, oh, okay, like it's happening to me because I'm able to share this in the future.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Mhm.
that's a beautiful silver lining to take away from that because then you're not it's not just like why
Mhm.
me? You're like this is going to help empower me to empower others.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There was definitely some time today where I just like laid on my couch in the dark eating like vegan sweet potato pie and watching Desperate Housewives. Like, I'm just going to be in my sad ball eating my
Yes.
pie
Yeah, which sounds
because
really yummy.
it was really good. I made it with a vegan graham cracker crust and it was good.
Fire. Send that down to Florida.
I will. Yeah. Well, it might not be good by the time it gets there, but
Yeah, but and it's important to give yourself that space though too
Mhm.
to take the time to sit with yourself and
Mhm.
feel it all and be like, no, I need a moment to watch my favorite show and eat my favorite fucking pie and kind of sit in it. And then I'll be
I
able
just try to write it out. Like there's so much about like people will say, "Well, how do you organize your thoughts or how do you get through that?" And like you're saying, you do need to just like sit in it sometimes and let it complete the process, right? Complete the cycle, complete the thoughts, complete the because it's not going to last forever. All emotions are temporary, we know that. And so but the more you keep denying them, that's contributing to so much anxiety. And who wants that? I certainly don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a space a lot of us wind up living in because we were like, nope, I got to press through. I don't have time to feel this shit. I got to keep going. Like, I'm not processing. I got point B to get to. So all of that will come later. And then we wind up going, where the heck is this anxiety coming from?
And it's like, with society today, I even though I feel like there's a lot of good talk and conversations around anxiety and depression, et cetera, there's not a lot of talk or focus on the actual process of that, what that looks like, what an individual needs in that. Do you need a day off? Do you need a couple hours? Do you need weeks? Do you need months? Like, there's not a lot of talk or support even around that. It's like, oh, I'm really sorry. When are you coming back to
Yeah.
work? Or, oh, how many days are they going to be off school? And I think it's like a lot of schools, they only have like 12 absences allowed, and it's like, what, 12? Like that's
Yeah.
like two flus. Like, Not even.
Yeah, kids need mental health days too. I mean, it's so important to recognize that and to know. And honestly, it's like a lot of that stuff starts to stem from them. I remember when I was a kid, I would always be down in the office with a stomach ache because I was
Yeah.
always anxious. And so I was like always down to the
Mm.
office, like, oh, my stomach hurts.
And did
Um,
they send you back to class a lot? I would get sent back to class a lot.
a lot. Yes. It's
Hmm.
like, oh no, you're fine. I'm like, I'm telling you, my stomach hurts. And now as an adult, right, we
Hmm.
can understand and go like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what was going on here. But there isn't that support
Hmm.
around it.
No, and it's like it sends such a bad message. Like I look back on those times where yeah, I had like bad anxiety or depression and I was yeah, like feeling like under the weather or dizzy or the room was spinning. And now I look back and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that was anxiety." But it sent such a bad message to be like, just go back to class. Oh, you don't have a fever, right? That's always the thing. Oh, you're not throwing up. So then it created, as I got older, this I would start lying about it, right? If it was horrible, and it could have been anything. It could have been like PMS. It could have been, some crappy girl at school saying shit about me, whatever. But the point being is that I started lying about it and being like, oh, I'm throwing up, right? Because they
Yeah,
won't keep you.
right.
Like,
You're like, yeah,
so
oh,
it's
I know
just
what I have to make happen for you to take me seriously. So,
yeah, which is crazy. I mean, and then even continuing into like as an adult, like going to work, like I remember being at Victoria's Secret and I was working there. I was a manager, of course. And like I would have to lie to get out of work all the time. Like, I mean, and crazy stuff, like faking throwing up so other people would hear me because it
yes.
was like they would not let you go home for anything. I would have horrible migraines. Nope. I remember like one time I pulled my back out. I mean, I couldn't even move. I was like on the floor and they were like, oh, put some ice on it and here's an aspirin and get up and go back to work. I'm like, what? Like, I look back at that time in my life and I'm like, that was insane. Why did I stay? But it was because I was trained to.
You're,
Like all of
yeah.
school trained me for that.
Exactly. I know I've had with, my front desk staff who works for me. They're like, "Oh, I have to put my cat down in the morning, but I'll be there 2 hours later." And I'm like, "No, you are not coming into work. What?
Go home.
Absolutely not. No."
No.
I'm like, "No, I in my good conscience." And somebody did that with their dog too. I'm like, no,
Oh,
no, you are not
no.
coming in. Please go sit with yourself, do what you need to do. Like, work is fine, life will be fine. You don't need to come in. But it is, we're trained to think that and to be like, nope, everything else has got to come before me. And it's important to start putting yourself first.
And work at the end of the day, like, don't get me wrong, I would never be in anything at this point in my life that I wasn't happy with. Like, I would never go to a job I wasn't happy with, ever,
No.
ever. I need to like it. I need to feel it. I need to feel like I'm doing good. Like, there's got to be all that synergy play. But, like, if it went away tomorrow, I wouldn't fall apart. I'd be like, okay, like there's so many interesting things in life. There's so like during COVID when everything was shut down, like I was just doing all kinds of stuff and I was like living my best life at home. And I mean, it's what you do is not definitive of who you are. You should be in things you love, and you should be in things that you really like and feel good about and have a good relationship with, but it shouldn't be your end all be all. Like, I think that people really need to focus on like who they are at their core. And you know what? You're better in your business because of that, because you do have this really like well defined, well rounded human behind the business. And that shows, it shows everywhere.
It really does. Yeah. And just being able to, the more you show up for yourself, the better
Mm-hmm.
that you're able to show up for others. But so often we run around completely depleted, just
Mm-hmm.
pouring from the little teeny drops that we have left in our cup, trying to give to everybody else. And then when we like actually go in and do the things that fill us up, do the things that refuel us, we're so much more available to other people in big ways. And then we also at that time, that's where you're really good at setting those boundaries and going like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to protect my cup. Like, I don't want to pour too much into yours from it. I want to just give that overflow, and it's so important to be in that space.
And one of the best things I really learned was from like a self care support group I did a few years ago. And it really had me look at the things I was doing outside of work in a very different way, because a lot of people, and myself included, have been like, I can't pull back because of this bill, or my pet has to go in for a surgery, or my car got a flat, or whatever it is, right? We need money. And so it's like, crap, I really do need to work and I do need that, but I'm so fried or burnt out or stressed out or sick. What do I do? So it's like, okay, well, in that case, what's the stuff outside of that work that is still technically work that you can put off? Cleaning your house, going to some obligatory like family thing that you really don't want to, detailing your car. Like, it's figuring out your other non-work activities and
Yes.
being able to pull back on those, or social obligations. Like, oh, you don't want to go to your friend's baby shower, don't
Then
go.
don't go.
Like,
Right. Yes.
don't go. You've got to figure out like where you can sacrifice and where you can't, and that looks different for everybody. But it's important that you're still really analyzing that, because I think that's a misconception. When I spoke for International Women's Day Detroit a few years ago, I had looked, and they had done a recent breakdown online, and it was like Forbes Women, or Inc. or Entrepreneur, one of those magazines. And they had done a breakdown of like the average woman's day in America. And the average woman only gets 4 hours. This is it, 4 hours of free time per week. Per week.
Jeez. Oh,
And it's like in that 4 hours, you have to think, okay, what am I going to do in those 4 hours, right? Like yoga, seeing somebody, like shopping. I mean, like 4 hours. And there's still so many other obligations that we have. So those could be gone too. And then where's that actual real rest, real downtime, real sad girl on the couch eating pie, watching Desperate Housewives time?
yes, like that you time, that's so
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah, I remember in a meditation, my introduction to meditation workshop that I did, and she had us create, a chart, and it was what, like, just put a percentage on the time that you spend with your family and the time you spend in work, all of
Mhm.
these things. And she didn't give us a total. She was just like, put a percentage. And then she's like, okay, now add all of those up. And, some people were at like 300, and she's like, you should be at 100%. Like
Yeah.
100% is where you want to be. So you need to
There's not
look.
300.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was such an eye-opening exercise for me, because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wow, okay. And then you start to look at those really high things. If your family's at 70, your job's at 70, you've got all these things. It's like, where is the time for you? And if you don't have the
Mhm.
time for you, then how are you going to really show up in the world?
You're not.
Yeah.
The answer is you're just not. You're going to be like this bald tire on the car. Like, it's still going, it's still rolling, but God forbid there's an emergency, it ain't going to help you out. It's probably about to get a flat soon.
Yes.
It's like you're literally just going. But there's the intent isn't there. The effort isn't there. The ability isn't there, because you're just worn down. And so it's like, it's funny because one of the questions I get all the time is like, "Oh, when do you sleep?" Because I do a lot,
Yeah.
right? But I'm like one of those people that if I have 3 hours, I'm going to do a shit ton in that 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If I have 8 hours, I'm going to do a shit ton in that 8 hours. Like, so I kind of am a sprinter, and then I crash. And
Yes.
that's okay. That's just how I am.
Right. Learn how you operate, and that's the place to
Yeah.
do it from.
Like, I tried those things where people would be like, okay, like, so do this and then take this break and then do this and take this break. And I can do that if I'm at home and it's like computer stuff or errands or whatever. But if I'm at work, like, because then I think, oh, I need to be doing something else. I need to be doing something else. And I have more energy. So, like, why not capitalize on the energy? I think learning how you operate and what you need, and not trying to adapt to what somebody else recommends, is really important when it comes to your own self care and needs for rest. Because if you're trying to adapt to what somebody else is telling you, it's like, are you really being organic to yourself?
Is that really what works for you, or are you just
Yeah.
repeating? Yeah. And I think that it's so important. Like, what does my schedule look like? What does being effective look like in my world? Because it's different for
Mhm.
everybody. And that's the beautiful thing. But it's like we try to box ourselves. It's a diet. People will be like, well, what do what do you eat? It's like, well, I eat what works for me, and you should discover that with you too. And
Mhm.
it's the same thing with ourselves. Like we need to discover the things that work best for us and try instead of trying to put ourselves in the box that we've been led to believe we need to be in.
And so many people, especially, I'm 36, and so many people, I think at around this age, start really reevaluating, and they're like, well, this used to work for me.
Mm,
Okay, like just because it used to work for you doesn't mean it's going to work for you now. Like that's how it is with weight loss and exercise and diet, like we were saying. But it's also like that with work. It's like that with rest. Maybe you needed less sleep in your 20s and now you need more sleep in your 30s.
yeah,
uh,
I hear that one.
yeah, maybe you need more social interaction now. Like maybe you're craving more bonding time. Like it's really important to evaluate, okay, where am I at in this space now? Like I know where I was really successful before, but that doesn't mean that that's even attainable at this point. So it's like kind of operating in your systems now and reevaluating your goals. Okay, so maybe you can't lose weight like you used to, but can you move better? Can you figure out a way to move better? Can you figure out a way that maybe I focus on my joints hurting less or being more capable with my everyday activities? Like it's really about like that pivot into, okay, well, maybe I can't do this, but what can I do?
Right. Instead of like beating yourself up, going, oh my gosh, I used to be able to do this, so I have to
Yeah.
do it this way, which is a space so many people wind up getting stuck in is just like, well, that's how it was. Well, how it was can change, and how it is now doesn't have to be how it was then. And that's where you really tap into your flow.
And it's like, I am a firm believer at any point, you can just change your life on a whim.
That's it.
You can be like, you know what? I know that I was like really anti gun and I was eating 8,000 pounds of meat and I was working 100 hours a week, but now I'm going to go like buy a gun, become a vegan, and not work and live on the open road
Right.
in an RV. And it's like, you know what I mean? You can like just choose whenever you want to change everything and anything you want. And people should take advantage of that. There, so many of the limitations and boundaries are things within our control that we don't realize are in our control. It's like, oh, I would do this, but
Yes.
okay, but is that like a big cement brick wall? Or is it like a little picket fence you can kind of jump over? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I remember I was having a conversation with somebody, and within her like screen name, whatever it was, the word vegan was in there. But she wanted to just go back to being vegetarian. But she's like, well, I can't
Mm-hmm.
because I am this. I'm like, no, you are whatever you want to be at any point in time. You're not that screen name. Like, if you want to just be
Yeah.
vegetarian instead of vegan, then go for it. Like, you're
Then
allowed
change
to
your screen
change.
name.
Yeah, change your screen name, change your mind. It's okay. Like, change your
Yeah. So
life.
if you were like old lady vegan, then change it to old lady vegetarian.
Right,
Only a few
exactly.
more letters.
Yeah, it's all good, but we
Right.
have the ability to do that, but we box ourselves in, and it's like, well, this is what I'm at and this is what I believe, but we need to recognize we can reevaluate those beliefs and those choices at any
People
time.
are obsessed with check boxes. Like they are obsessed with that. Like I'm vegan and I'm super proud of being vegan. It helps when you go to restaurants that people are like, "Oh, there is a difference," right? Like so that like helps with that. But other than that, it's like that's it, right? I think a lot of the labels we impose on ourselves, and there's a label for everything
Mm.
nowadays, every type of religious subsect, every type of identity, every type of political party. There's so many labels. It's overwhelming. And why not allow for some flexibility? I've always been like a fan of like just don't box yourself in. It's really hard to get out if you box yourself in. And I mean, I definitely struggled with that in my life. And it's not fun. It's not fun.
No, life like there's so much freedom and flexibility within our lives, but
Mhm.
the rigidness we experience mostly is in our minds. It's the box and limitations that we're holding ourselves to.
And we're pattern seeking people. And that's just the basis of it. That is, if you've ever read any kind of neuroscience, you know that like at our core, at our very core, we love patterns, 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 patterns. We want to make sense out of everything. That's how it kept us safe, like when we were Neanderthals. And it's understandable, but you need to recognize that. Like, oh, is this my pattern seeking behavior, right? That's like the foundation of implicit bias. That's the foundation of, I mean, honestly, a lot of things. And if you go to like the antithesis of that, right, in Buddhism, where it's like, no, let go of the attachments. But so much about being a human is about attachment to an ideal, attachment to a thought, attachment to an opinion. And soon we've created our own fortress and we just don't know how to get out. And so it's like, I think it's so important for people, especially young people, to not limit yourself to that, because then sometimes the people you're surrounding yourselves with are going to hold you to that and not let you have that like fluidity and flexibility that we need as humans, because we change. You're changing every day.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it's so important. And it's good to recognize that in the people you are surrounding yourselves with. And, you know, to say, hey, you're holding me to something, but I've changed. And that's okay. And I invite you to do the same.
Exactly.
Opening that up.
And it's hard. And I get it. Like I've been on the other side of that too, where I'm like, yeah. I've definitely held judgment towards people. Like I'm not going to deny it. I'm not like the Dalai Lama. Well, no, even the Dalai Lama screws up from time to time here. And
We're all
then
human.
gets called out in the news. Because, and again, that too is that rigid set of ideals, right? That this person can't be human because they're like enshrined. And so it's like the more you can like let go of those attachments you have to like certain thoughts or facets, like the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Yeah. And the more fulfilled you're going to feel as well, too, you know. And
because it's simple, because then you allow simplicity to be a good construct for you, right? That you're not having to live up to everyone's everything and not even your own everything. And you allow like just more gentle moments to pass in. And I think we all need more gentle moments.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. Just being gentle and graceful and compassionate with yourself and with others too, because we're all humans trying to navigate this human experience together.
Amen, sister.
Yes. So for our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Breathe Ferndale. That's for the spa. And for Coterie Detroit, which is the networking group in Metro Detroit, you can find us, same thing, Instagram and Facebook at Coterie Detroit. And my podcast, which is nationally syndicated, is When Survival Looks Like Success. And that is on YouTube. And it's on all of your listening platforms. And we just started season 2. I'm pretty excited to do video because last year I only did audio. This year I'm doing video, and I have my own theme song, and it's really cool.
Woo! Oh, yay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. That's amazing, girl. I'm so grateful that you joined us here today. Thank you so much for sharing your story, yourself, and your time with us. I really appreciate it. And listeners, please find and follow Jessica. Check out her podcast. She is an amazing wealth of knowledge, as I'm sure you've picked up along the way so far. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I look forward to being on with you all next week. Have an amazing week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.